The tennis world had been holding its breath for this moment. Alex Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina who had just demolished Donna Vekic before a surprise walkover sealed her path forward, was about to face the sternest test of her grass court season. Across the net stood Elena Rybakina, world number 2, 2022 Wimbledon champion, the woman whose brutal power game had dismantled Eala in Rome only weeks earlier. By every measure, Rybakina was supposed to win. She was supposed to dominate. She was supposed to remind the young Filipina, in no uncertain terms, that she wasn't ready for tennis's elite tier. But what unfolded on center court at the Rotweiss Tennis Club was no coronation. It was a revelation. And by the time the final point landed, the tennis world was left utterly speechless. What did Alex Eala do to the reigning Wimbledon champion that nobody saw coming? And how did she prove, beyond doubt, that she belongs among the very best in the world? The stage in Berlin was set for the most consequential match of Eala's grass court campaign. 25,000 fans packed the historic Steffi Graf Stadium to capacity. Philippine flags rippled beside German colors, and chants of Laban rolled across the immaculate lawns. At the heart of it all stood a 21-year-old from Quezon City, preparing to face the most daunting challenge of her young career. Rybakina's credentials needed no introduction. The world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, possessed a power game seemingly engineered for grass, flat, punishing ground strokes paired with a serve clocked at 127 miles per hour. She had already conquered this surface once, lifting the most prestigious trophy in tennis 4 years prior. The two had crossed paths only weeks before at the Italian Open in Rome, where Rybakina controlled the pivotal moments en route to a 6-4, 6-3 win. Eala had fought, had pushed, but had ultimately fallen short. Every indicator pointed toward another lopsided result. Rybakina arrived rested off a first-round bye. Eala, by contrast, advanced via walkover after Vekic withdrew from their opening clash, meaning she hadn't played a competitive match since claiming the Birmingham Open title just a week prior. Questions lingered over whether she'd arrive sharp enough. But Eala had come to Berlin with purpose. Her Birmingham triumph, a gritty 5-7, 6-3, 7-5 victory over Nikola Bardunkova that snapped a 13-match losing streak against Czech opponents, had already announced her arrival on grass. A deep run in Berlin would lock in her Wimbledon seeding. Standing between her and that goal was the very woman who had beaten her weeks earlier. The crowd expected a battle. The media expected a statement. The tennis world expected Rybakina to remind the young Filipina exactly where she stood. From the very first point, it became clear this match would be nothing like that. Eala's opening serve was a warning shot. The lefty delivery screamed down the tee, painting the line before Rybakina could even react. The radar gun flashed 113 miles per hour. The reigning Wimbledon champion, a woman who had faced some of the heaviest serves in the sport, could only watch it go by. The message was unmistakable. This was not the same player she had beaten in Rome. From the opening game, Eala dictated play. Her signature lefty angles, the weapon that had frustrated opponents throughout her grass campaign, neutralized Rybakina's power entirely. The Kazakh's ferocious ground strokes, the very shots that had overwhelmed opponents at Wimbledon, were consistently redirected, pushed wide, and turned into unforced errors. Rybakina looked uneasy. Her movement, normally so fluid on grass, seemed hesitant. Her timing, just slightly off. The woman who had won Wimbledon through relentless aggression was now being forced into defensive positions she rarely occupied. Philippine flags surged in the stands. The chants of Laban rolled through the historic Steffi Graf Stadium, and Alex Eala, the wild-card entry from Quezon City, looked utterly unstoppable. The first game was a hold to love. The second was a break. Eala took Rybakina's serve in the very first game of the match, a stunning development that sent shockwaves through the stadium, the reigning Wimbledon champion broken on grass by a player ranked outside the top 30. Rybakina searched for answers. She varied her pace, attacked the net, tried every disruption in her arsenal to throw Eala off rhythm. Nothing worked. Eala was locked in, her focus absolute, her execution nearly flawless. She held serve with authority, then broke again. The first set was over in just 34 minutes, 6-2. The stadium sat in disbelief. Rybakina had never lost a set by that margin on grass to a player ranked outside the top 20. The world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, the woman expected to dominate, suddenly found herself on the back foot. Eala walked to her chair with her expression unchanged. She had done what so few players ever managed, taken the fight directly to Rybakina and claimed the opening set in dominant fashion. The second set was about to begin, and the tennis world watched to see if she could possibly do it again. The second set opened with a statement of its own. Rybakina, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, had never been pushed like this on grass before, not even in the year she won the title without dropping a set in the final, not against any of the sport's biggest names on the surface. But Alex Eala was different. Alex Eala was a puzzle Rybakina hadn't yet solved. The Kazakh reset at the baseline, leaning on a serve that had carried her past countless opponents over the years. But Eala's return game was relentless, and she broke Rybakina again in the third game of the second set. The stadium erupted. Philippine flags waved furiously. The chants of Laban thundered across center court. Then came the serve that would be replayed for years to come. Trailing 15-30 in that game, Eala had already unleashed one 113-mile-per-hour bullet earlier in the match. But this was bigger. The toss went up, high, perfect, and then the strike. The ball exploded off her racket with a sound unlike anything she'd produced all match, screaming through the Berlin air as a white blur against the green grass. Rybakina, the world number 2, a player with reflexes sharp enough to return 127-mile-per-hour serves, simply didn't move. She watched it paint the inside corner of the box and skid away. Her game was built on lefty angles, tactical intelligence, and relentless defense. This serve was something else entirely. The commentary booth scrambled for words. Did you see that? 119 miles an hour. That's not just fast for Alex Eala, that's fast for anyone. His co-commentator, still processing, added that she'd never hit that speed before in any recorded match, that she had just shattered her own personal record, and possibly the tournament record, against the Wimbledon champion herself. Eala walked to the other end of the baseline, expression unchanged, bouncing the ball as the crowd buzzed around her, seemingly unmoved by the history she'd just made. Her next serve registered 112 miles per hour. Rybakina got a racket on it, but the point belonged to Eala. 30-30. The game continued, and Eala held serve, escaping danger to level the set. But the damage from that single serve had already been done, not just on the scoreboard, but in the mind of everyone watching. Rybakina had returned serves from Sabalenka, from Serena Williams, from players whose entire identity was built on power. She had never faced anything quite like this from a player like Eala. The match was far from over, but the tennis world had just witnessed something unprecedented. A 21-year-old from Quezon City, once told she wasn't fit to compete in Birmingham, unleashing the fastest serve of her career against one of the best returners on the planet, on grass, under maximum pressure. The record was broken. The message had been sent. The numbers afterward told a story the scoreboard alone couldn't capture. Eala finished with 22 winners to Rybakina's 14. She committed only 11 unforced errors while forcing the Wimbledon champion into 18. She won an astonishing 78% of her first serve points and faced just 2 break points all match, saving both with serves that arrived exactly when she needed them. The 119-mile-per-hour ace was the exclamation point on a performance built from near-flawless execution, but it was far from the only statement she made. Her lefty angles dismantled Rybakina's rhythm from start to finish. Her ground strokes redirected the Kazakh's power into wide, harmless errors. The first set, wrapped in just 34 minutes at 6-2, was unlike anything Rybakina had experienced on grass against a player outside the top 20. The second set tightened as Rybakina's serve finally found its range, and the match stretched into a deciding third set. But the damage was already done. Eala had announced herself on the biggest stage available to her. She had pushed a Wimbledon champion to the brink on grass. She had served 119 miles per hour. She had out-hit the world number 2 in winners. The match ultimately ended 4-6, 7-5, 7-5 in Rybakina's favor. The Kazakh survived, but she had been pushed far further than anyone, including herself, had expected. Afterward, Rybakina was asked about her opponent. She played incredible tennis, the world number 2 admitted. I didn't expect that level from her today. She's going to be a problem for a lot of players. Eala walked off center court with her head held high. She hadn't won the match, but she had won something more lasting, proof that she belonged. For months, the tennis establishment had underestimated her at nearly every turn. The WTA had advised her to withdraw from Birmingham over fitness concerns. She signed a waiver and won the title anyway. They fined her $50,000. She paid it without complaint and moved forward. They charged her fees other players were exempt from. She paid those too. They excluded her from the elite player development program. She kept training, kept fighting, kept climbing regardless. And now she had taken the 2022 Wimbledon champion to her absolute limit on the very surface that champion calls her own. Rybakina's words carried real weight precisely because she wasn't a player who handed out praise lightly. She had conquered the best in the world and lifted the sport's most prestigious trophy. When she said Eala was going to be a problem, she meant exactly that. Berlin was over for Eala, but the grass season was far from finished. The Wimbledon seeding cutoff lands on June 22nd, just days away. Eala currently sits at world number 33, a single spot outside the top 32, and the 163 ranking points she earned reaching last year's Eastbourne final expire on that very same date. She needs a strong run at the Bad Homburg Open to lock down her seed. But Bad Homburg offers her more than ranking points alone. It offers the chance to partner with Venus Williams in doubles, a dream pairing and the first time the two will officially share a court. The tournament runs from June 21st through the 27th, overlapping directly with the Wimbledon cutoff, meaning the opportunity to learn from one of the greatest grass court players in history couldn't have arrived at a more critical moment. I'm excited for the challenge, Eala said. I know what I need to do differently. I've learned so much from this match, and I'm going to take that learning into the next tournament. Win or lose in Berlin, seeded or unseeded at Wimbledon, Alex Eala had already secured something no opponent could ever take from her. She had pushed a Wimbledon champion to the brink on grass. She had served 119 miles per hour. She had out-hit the world number 2 in winners on the sport's biggest stage. The tennis world had taken notice. The WTA had been put on notice, and Alex Eala had proven, beyond any argument, that she was not merely a promising young talent. She was a future champion in the making. The crowd in Berlin had witnessed something rare. The Philippine flags waved until the very last point. The chants of Laban echoed across center court long after the final ball landed. The match hadn't ended in victory, but it had ended in something arguably more valuable: respect. Laban always. And Wimbledon is coming. Shocking. Alex Eala versus Elena Rybakina at the Berlin Open left the tennis world speechless. The 21-year-old Filipina pushed the 2022 Wimbledon champion to the absolute limit in a 3-set thriller, 4-6, 7-5, 7-5. Eala recorded 22 winners, fired a career-best 119-mile-per-hour serve, and won 78% of her first serve points, forcing the world number 2 into 18 unforced errors while saving both break points she faced with clutch serving. She played incredible tennis, Rybakina said afterward. She's going to be a problem for a lot of players. Though the loss closes out Eala's Berlin campaign, the performance stands as a statement in its own right. The Wimbledon seeding cutoff arrives June 22nd. The Bad Homburg Open awaits. And Alex Eala has proven once again that she belongs among the best in the world. At Court Legacy, we bring you the latest in women's tennis, from thrilling match highlights to the moments that define careers. Subscribe now for daily WTA news and stories that go beyond the scoreline. Drop a comment. Will Alex Eala secure a Wimbledon seed after this incredible performance against Rybakina?